Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into the story of a leader who took over one of the world's most recognizable brands, a company literally built on sugar and snacks. And she dared to ask a pretty radical question. Can a giant corporation actually have a conscience? Can it chase profits and a greater purpose at the same time? So let's just start with this one simple idea from Indra Nooyi herself. Leave your crown in the garage. Now, this wasn't just some clever thing she said in an interview. It was her daily practice. It's really the core philosophy that shaped her entire journey, from her very first job all the way up to the CEO's office. All right, so let's get into our first section, a leader's purposeful vision. Because what you're going to see is that her story isn't just about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about the incredible power of a single long-term vision to completely transform a global giant from the inside out. Think about this. From 2006 to 2018, she was only the fifth CEO in PepsiCo's entire history. She took a company famous for, soda and chips and pointed it in a totally different direction, a path toward a healthier, more sustainable future. And somehow, she managed to deliver incredible results while doing it. Okay, next up, forged by family and values. Because, to really get how she could lead such a revolutionary charge, you've got to go back to the very beginning, to the principles that were instilled in her from day one. So she grew up in a Brahmin family in Chennai, India, and her world was all about discipline and academic excellence. But here's the critical part. Her family also championed independence for their daughters. And this wasn't just like a minor detail in her story. It was the absolute bedrock of her character. And this piece of advice from her father, wow. I mean, think about it. At a time when this wasn't always the norm for women, being told to stand on your own 2 feet wasn't just permission to go out and succeed. It felt like a mission. And yeah, you can totally see that commitment to excellence playing out in her academic path. I mean, from Madras to Calcutta and then all the way to Yale University in the US. This journey across continents wasn't just about racking up degrees. It was about forging that sharp analytical mind that was going to take the corporate world by storm. So with that incredible foundation, her rise in the corporate world was, it was both methodical and incredibly fast. It's like she wasn't just climbing the ladder, she was redesigning it as she went. She starts out in the trenches of corporate strategy. We're talking big names like Boston Consulting Group and Motorola. So when she finally gets to PepsiCo in '94, she brings this total outsider's perspective. She's not just trying to climb up, she's analyzing the whole structure, seeing where the company needed to go way before she was the one in the driver's seat. And here's a perfect example of that strategic brain in action way back in 1997. She was a key architect in spinning off the entire restaurant division. That's KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell. The move was so bold because it let PepsiCo focus completely on what it did best, snacks and beverages. It was a genius move that totally set the stage for the massive growth that was about to happen. Okay, this is huge. Our next section, performance with purpose explained. Because once she got that top job, she didn't just manage the company, she gave it a new soul. She rolled out her signature philosophy, this mission that would reshape everything from the factory floor to the boardroom. And look, this was not just some catchy slogan they slapped on a PowerPoint. Performance with purpose was a complete rewiring of PepsiCo's DNA. It was basically a declaration that you couldn't have one without the other, that if you wanted long-term financial success, you had to be committed to the health of your customers, the planet, and your own people. So this vision, it became the new operating system for the entire company. And it was built on these 3 really clear pillars: human health, the environment, and talent. See, it wasn't some abstract idea, it was actionable. This framework would guide every single decision, from the ingredients they used to the culture they were building. And the results of this shift, they were dramatic. Just look at this revenue chart. By 2016, the thing that made them famous, soda, was less than a quarter of their business. The whole company was now being driven by its healthier options. Think about that for a second. Okay, let's slice it another way. When she first took over as CEO, about 38% of their money came from these better-for-you products. By the time she left, that number had jumped to nearly half of all revenue. That doesn't happen by accident, right? That is a deliberate, full-on strategic transformation. All right, next section, leading with head and heart, because this whole transformation wasn't just driven by spreadsheets and 5-year plans. To make it actually work, Nooyi had to connect with her people on a really deep human level. Okay, get this. She personally wrote over 400 letters, but not to her executives. No, she wrote them to their parents, telling them how proud they should be of their sons and daughters. It was such a simple but profound way of connecting with her team on a level nobody expected. And this quote right here, it just perfectly sums up the thinking behind those letters. She really championed this idea that to get the absolute best from your people, you had to see them as whole human beings, people with families and passions and lives outside the office. They weren't just employees or assets on a balance sheet. And this really gets to the core of the battle she was constantly fighting, right? You've got Wall Street screaming for short-term quarterly results, but she was always pushing back, arguing for this long-term vision, for investing in the sustainable future of the company, even if it meant a little less profit right now. She was playing a completely different game than everybody else.
So, our last section, her lasting legacy and lessons. After 12 years of leading with both her head and her heart, what was the final score? What did she actually leave behind?
Well, for anyone who thought performance with purpose was just some soft feel-good idea, check this out. 162%. That's the total shareholder return during her time as CEO. This was the ultimate proof that her idea worked. Doing good wasn't just the right thing to do, it was absolutely great for business. So her journey really leaves us with this powerful blueprint for what a modern leader can be. It's a reminder that empathy isn't a weakness, that having a long-term vision is a superpower, and that purpose and profit can and absolutely should go hand in hand. And that brings us to the very end, a question that flips her entire powerful philosophy right back on all of us. It asks us to think beyond the to-do list, beyond the quarterly goals, and to really consider that deeper reason behind what we do. It's a huge question she answered for a global corporation, and it's one we can all ask ourselves.